Welcome to Manufacturing Talks with Jim Vinosky. Industry has a million cool stories, and Jim talks to the movers and shakers who are making them happen. Let's dive in.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Manufacturing Talks. I'm Jim Vinosky, your host. I'm really glad to be joined today by one of those days, Seth Glauberman. He is the president of Malco Products in Akron, Ohio. Welcome, Seth.
Hey, well, Jim, thank you very much for having me, and really excited to be here.
I'm glad to have you here. I've read up on you guys, and you got such a great story. I'm really looking forward to hearing all about the company. But before we do, I always ask my guests first, tell us about, who you are, how you got doing what you're doing.
Sure. So Seth Glauberman, president, Malco Products. And how did I get here? Well, first, it's a family business. So I think it's probably, many people don't know this, but Malco, the name, is actually my grandfather, Murray, my great-grandfather, Abe, and my great-uncle Lionel. So it was Mal Soap Company. So right off the rip, my grandfather, who started the company, Murray, his focus was creating a family business, and literally, it meant so much to him that he even made the name, like kind of the starting out foundation of the family business. Yep. So I actually joined the business in 2004 after college, but I got into it probably. I actually joined the business because of my mom, and so growing up, and actually I probably will take a step back. Growing up, my dad always talks about how his life was scripted, Stuart Glauberman, and he was always going to come into the business. He went and got a chemical engineering degree from Carnegie Mellon, and his script was written to go join the business. Yep. For me, and even my sister, and this is still a family business. My sister and I are in it. We lead the organization, but for us, there was no pressure to join the business. We actually found our way back to the business. And my dad and mom were much more about, giving us the opportunity to see where we wanted to go and where our passions lay, except for my grandmother, Murray's wife. She always told me I was supposed to come into the business. But
a little pressure.
Yeah. She was the only one. But I think, for us, what got us here was we realized that it was strictly an opportunity, and we'd have an incredible platform to build and continue to shape and grow on top of what my, grandfather, great-grandfather, my dad, and my uncle built, and I joined the business in 2004, and unfortunately for us, my dad and my uncle ran the business for a long time together, and my uncle passed away. And when my uncle passed away, I was talking to my mom, and I always am someone that believed that you shouldn't live your life with regrets. So I was actually living in Colorado and kind of had two tracks in my life that you could possibly go. And one would be staying out west, and one would be moving back here. And my mom just said to me, 5-10 years from now, don't think that you can just come back into the business and say, hey, I'm ready, I want to run it. And, there's a lot of change going on with your uncle passing away. There might, you never know that the business will even be there. So I decided, it was kind of great insight from my mom. And so I decided to give my dad a commitment that, I was going to come back, and I'd give him 5 years. And 2 years into it, I realized it was just an incredible opportunity, both from, the company and career, but also just, we have 250 employees. We're very community focused, and it was an incredible opportunity to kind of continue the legacy that had been built by my grandfather and my family and my father over the years.
Got it. Yep. Well, so for folks who aren't aware, tell us what Malco Products is all about.
Yeah. So I like to say technically I'm a fourth generation, even though third generation to run it, which is good because there's a joke out there that first generation starts it, second generation builds it, and third
Right.
generation spends it or destroys it. So we're already in fourth generation, which I know is very like, rare. I think it's like,
Yeah, that's right.
5% of businesses make it to fourth generation, and we just celebrated 71 years. But what we do at Malco is we're a specialty chemical manufacturer, and we really focus on the automotive side. We really focused on professional and what we call pro enthusiast detailing products. So it's anything you could use to refinish, detail, clean and restore the interior and exterior of a car or a boat. And we focus on the automotive and the marine industries. And then we also have another side of our business, which is contract manufacturing, where we're producing products for Fortune 100 companies. So you could almost think of us as like a tier one supplier, and we're out. We purchase, blend, and produce, and then ship finished goods to Fortune 100 consumer product companies, and then they're shipping it out to their customers. So,
Yep. So for me personally, I've never been in a family business. I've talked to quite a few people who are part of them, and I just find it intriguing. Like you say, it's this kind of common wisdom that as those generations go on, things just tend to fall apart. So what would you say with Malco and the Glaubermans helped you guys avoid the curse?
So I would say it's a couple things. One, it is very sad and unfortunate, which I would say it was actually unfortunate death. And the reason why I say that is a lot of times when you get to the third or fourth generation, you might have 15 or 20 family members that all have equity in the business.
Right.
So so there is a piece that, there was some untimely passing of, people pass away. Yep. And it kind of consolidated some of the ownership into just our family. So there is that piece where we never had to decide, hey, we have multiple family members. Some people want out. How does someone, leave the business with whatever, birthright that they have?
Right.
I would also say it's been incredible planning. And when I like my grandfather passed away at an early age. My great grandfather passed away at an early age. My uncle passed away at an early age. My dad's now 73. So it was a very big deal when my dad actually got to retire and see that my sister and I and a really strong leadership team were in place to kind of carry it on.
Yep.
And the transition, this was the first transition in our history of our company that was a planned transition. Mm-hmm. And so I would say it was a very, very smooth transition because we were able to plan. We had really strong leadership, within our organization that's non-family member. And then we also have, really committed family members. So when you look at my sister and I, like we're capable, and right. Not that I want to pat myself on the back, but we're capable and we're committed and we're focused on growing and building the business. Yep. And so I'd say that, and kind of, just learning from my parents, and, we've had good mentors, has probably allowed us to have what I would call a very, very successful transition. And that all really started with my dad.
Got it. Yep. For you in particular, you admitted you originally didn't intend to work in the business. And it's interesting. I have kind of an old friend who was the same way, didn't want initially to work in her family business. She's now back in a good number of years down the road now. Just met another woman out west who was the same way. What was it for you, number one, that had you thinking, no, it's not the path I want to go? And I mean, you touched on a little bit of what drew you back in, but what was it that really cemented you coming back in then?
So I always felt that I wanted to create my own thing. And it was kind of like my family built this. So did I really build it and earn it.
Yep.
And it took me a long time to realize that all they're doing is presenting an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what you do with that opportunity and how you earn your coworkers respect. And you only do that through hard work, and showing that you care and you're capable.
Right.
And I think, some of it was that. But I'll say, for me, it still goes back to, I realized that nothing was given. It was just a great platform and an opportunity. And then it's what you make of it and what you build of it. And there's lots of people that come into businesses and, you just ride the coattails. And there's lots of people that come into businesses and they take it to the next level.
Yep.
And, for my sister and I, it's very much about, you're either a growing, thriving business or you're a dying business. And it doesn't mean that you'll go out of business right away, but it might mean 25 years from now, you're not going to be a business.
Yeah.
And for my sister and I, everything's about how are we building this business for the future and continuing to keep it a family business.
Mm-hmm. Now, was your sister planning on being in it, or is she like you?
She actually has a master's in reading recovery and education. And so, that was her plan, was to go into education. And she kind of eventually found her way into the business and had many different roles. And now she's flourishing as our director of marketing.
Excellent. Well, so you mentioned there's that challenge of making it a growing and thriving business. And your business is one of those that most of us never really think about. Most of us washed our cars. A bunch of us have used detailing services. We don't think about those chemicals that are required to make that happen. So what are the particular challenges you grapple with, and how do you overcome those?
So we're a 70-year-old company that you've probably never heard of. Right. So we make incredible products. What's neat is we have all these distributors across the U.S. and internationally. Almost 120 distributors, domestic in Canada, and then we have another 70 to 80 internationally, and they're all, for the most part, independent, privately held family businesses. So it's a very neat piece there. We're like, in that part of our business, which is our detailing business, we're selling to them. And then they're selling to dealerships and detailers and auto auctions and marinas. But our business has, my dad was a manufacturing guy. Mm-hmm. Like that was like he could geek out over a piece of equipment, and no project was too hard. And that was just who he was. Yeah. And he was all about quality. So we have these so everything that we did was about making the best product that a professional detailer would want to use to make their lives easier and to get a better outcome for their customer. And we needed to do it in a way that was efficient, quality, consistent, and had great efficacy. Now you talk about, well, how do you move it? Well, we're a 70-year-old detailing company that if you've used our products, you'll swear by them. But so many people have never heard of us. And so now we're trying to add the marketing and branding and awareness of our company to help take us to the next level. And not, it's almost like the hard part has been done, which is the make great products, make them efficiently, consistently with great quality. Yeah. Now we got to tell our story. And as we've worked with some people, they're like, you have an incredible story. You're just not even telling it. And we don't even have to make it up. It's a fourth generation, 71-year-old company that produces everything in Barberton, Ohio, and we're just not telling the story. So now it's about how do we grow? How do we build? Well, it's really about taking our great products and our great foundation and bolting on marketing to go along with it, to tell people about who we are and why they should check us out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I couldn't agree more with the people who were saying that. Again, I did some research as the show approached and was just bowled over by the story that you guys have. And they're absolutely right. It's one that's going to sell itself once you get it out there.
Yeah. So it's an exciting time for us. And we're actually going through a rebranding right now. So we've actually kind of updated our brand about this will be the fourth time in 71 years. And it's just kind of a refreshing look. And, our customers are super excited to see that we're investing back into the business and growing it.
Sure.
Our employees are excited about it, and so it's really like when we started off, it's an exciting time, busy,
Yeah.
but exciting.
Yep. Where you are in the country has, particular resonance as well. The Rust Belt, old school manufacturing kind of fell on hard times and really hasn't entirely found its way back. I think we're on the cusp of big things. How are you feeling about your area and how that plays with the broader business?
Well, I think it helps one, there's a good, for one thing, we have there's a good workforce in the
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
A lot of people, and I talk about this all the time, with my, Tim White, our VP of operations, it's like, how do we continue to find new talent, right? And people to come in. And, I think the one thing that I look at within the organization and even our area is probably more around, our average employee has been with us for like 14 or 15 years. And so it's more, we have a group of employees that have an incredible amount of knowledge. And when they're getting ready to retire, how do we kind of backfill and build up and promote that next kind of generation of employee? And I'd say that sometimes is a hard thing. And, it really started probably back in 2008, where it feels like employees used to be more, employees used to stay longer with companies.
Yep.
And today, and you probably said, hey, if you have an employee that's been with someone for 7 to 10 years, that was really good. Now you might look at it and say, if I can have someone for 3 to 5 years, that's really good.
Yeah.
One of the things for us is, I would say we look at our organization and we look at our team members as family. So they really feel like everybody can make an impact here.
Yep.
And we do find where we can attract talent because they want to come to I'll call it a mid-sized company that can grow and they can have an impact on, versus being in a large company where they're sometimes just a number.
Right. Yeah. As you were talking, I was thinking about, it's been one of my long held beliefs that it's corporate America that bears the bulk of the blame for what's happened around loyalty.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think companies led the way in abandoning that idea. And so why would employees continue to throw themselves to the wolves when they're not being shown that from the other end? Is that a piece of what you're feeling? Is it because you represent a different approach that people respond to that?
Yeah, I would say that. And it's actually, I'm our director of domestic sales recently left for a new opportunity, and he had been with us for 8.5 years. And it's actually refreshing, so I'm right in the hiring process right now. I'm interviewing people, and so many people are looking to get out of bigger companies to where they can get in with a company to where they can have an impact, be with a company that's understands maybe a little bit more what the people are going through, and
Right.
they can be a part of a company that's growing, versus there's been a lot of talk about PE and wanting to get out of PE owned companies, and Malco will never outpay a salary compared to a PE, or anything like that.
Yep.
But there's all these other intangibles that we can provide that someone can't get from a PE.
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up, because that's a conversation I've been having in a number of different venues. It seems to be getting a lot more attention now. And it's interesting because it's this mix where people don't really want to talk about that effect, and yet it's become so apparent. It's like you can't avoid it.
No. And we've had some great people join our organization that came from PE, and, they learn a lot under that tutelage. There's a lot to learn. It's all about how do you, grow and run it efficiently.
Right.
Believe me,
Maximize value.
Yeah, I mean, we should be
Mhm.
doing that here at Malco too. But the difference
Yeah,
is we're also looking at how do we build, maintain, and have longevity and consistency. I mean, we're not, no one here is looking at it and saying, okay, we want, in 5 years, how do we sell the company, flip it, or anything like that.
yep,
I'm thinking of
interesting.
like in 25 years, how do I set it up so like we have the right leadership team, so either someone can grow into a role or my kids or my sister's kids will have at least the option and opportunity to come in and continue for a fifth generation.
Yeah, yep. Are there particularly difficult challenges that you're dealing with right now?
I mean, we're a global company, so I'll share. I've had a lot of customers call and say, "What's going to happen with tariffs and stuff like
Sure.
that?"
Yeah.
We have packaging that comes from Canada. So like if there's suddenly a 25% tariff, and the problem is we don't even know. It's like,
Yeah,
do you
right.
plan for it? Do you not plan for it?
Yep.
So I would say there's still a level of like uncertainty that I think it's way better than what it was in terms of the disruption and supply chain disruptions during like the peak of COVID,
Yep.
but it's still there,
Yep.
you know. Um, and then just going back, you had asked me, I just want to circle back
Yeah.
about like, the Rust Belt and the manufacturing that left this region.
Mhm.
And I would say the only thing that in my mind that's probably hurt us is, a company like Malco isn't necessarily always recruiting and bringing people to the territory, right?
Sure. Yep.
Where when you had, so in Akron, just all the tire companies, right? And all the
Mhm.
chemical companies that were in Akron, and you had, they were bringing a lot of talent and relocating a lot of talent into Akron. And then, maybe someone would stay there for their career or leave 3 or 4 years later. So you ended up with probably, an influx of talent that doesn't always come back. Although what I would say is, I personally think you're gonna start seeing some talent start to move back to this region, and it's not just Akron. I would say it's, call it Buffalo all the way to, like Madison, Wisconsin, that whole Great Lakes region. When you think
Mhm.
about, you know, access to energy, water,
Mhm.
affordable housing, you know, like, it's terrible what happened in California with the fires, but like, someone could decide, you come here, you can get a a 5,000 square foot house for the price of probably, you know, an 800 square foot studio in
Right.
California. So
Right.
I actually think you'll start to see people start to gravitate back to this kind of, I'll call it the Great Lakes region, just because of some of the stuff that it has to offer.
Yeah, I agree. I think, that plus, as I said, I do think we're on the cusp of some serious turnaround in manufacturing, and I think a lot of that is gonna come back to the Rust Belt,
Yeah.
so it'll be interesting times.
Yeah, there was a great article I read that talked about, like, you talk about manufacturing, right? So let's say you decide you're going to build a plant. And so if you build a plant down in Florida, what's the insurance cost in Florida
Mhm.
because of hurricanes versus the insurance cost in Northeast Ohio, that, I think I read once has a very boring, like boring weather, right?
Yeah, the actuarial tables are
Yeah.
not so
So,
dramatic, right?
so but that, so I'm with you. I really believe that this region is going to start to kind of be on the upswing.
Yep. Well, I gotta play devil's advocate a little. It's been nagging at me in the back of my head. You and I talked before we got on that you and I are both cyclists,
Yeah.
and you're obviously pretty a pretty staunch one. You were living in Colorado. I mean, that had to be a part of keeping you from coming back to the Midwest. How did you decide to go back to the flatlands?
Yeah. Well, so I'm also a big skier, so it was definitely
Oh,
very hard. It was very hard to leave.
yeah.
Um, uh, but it was really, it was one, it was opportunity. It was to be back with, so for me, I had family and a business that I wanted to come back to.
Yeah.
Um, and, um, and I still ski and I still cycle. So like,
Yeah, still doable.
yeah, so I still can do it.
Yep.
And other than the Cleveland Orchestra, Ohio might not have the best of any, like world renowned. It's not, the Great Smoky Mountains or, the Rocky Mountains or Yosemite, but I mean, we have a national park, we don't have the Pacific Ocean, but we got Lake Erie. We got
Yep.
great sports teams. We got a theater district. I think the Cuyahoga Valley National Park is like the 7th or 10th most visited national park in the U.S. So, when you boil it down, there's a lot of great things about the region.
Yep. Well, I've never lived out west, so I can't compare with your experience there. But I will say the best cycling place I ever lived, and I've lived all over the eastern U.S., was Buffalo.
Huh.
South of Buffalo, all those hills, man, that was heaven.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, well, so you guys are obviously well established and you're doing well. What do you see for the future? What are the big opportunities you're looking at leveraging?
Well, one I would say is we're going through this rebrand. It's refreshing and creating a lot of excitement in our professional market. And I think it's really going to help kind of grow our automotive detailing products and kind of create a lot of excitement, and now that we're bolting on kind of marketing and branding to really quality and high performing products, we're really excited about kind of the trajectory for that.
Yep.
And then, I think the second piece is it'll be interesting, but, I think as more and more people look to, I'll call it like, produce more in the US, I think that's going to bode well for us in terms of, manufacturing opportunities on the contract side as well. And we're seeing that and, and seeing growth on that side as well. So it's kind of an exciting time.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Kind of bolsters what I was sensing anyway. One more or two more data points with your internal business and your contract manufacturing. What about Malco Products have we not hit on that people should know?
What have we not hit on? Well, we're
here.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's not manufacturing, but if you know of any good directors of sales candidates, I'd love them to check us out because we're hiring for it right now.
Absolutely. Sales is obviously if you're not selling, you're not making, right? Or at least not for very long. So yeah, anyone out there who is in the sales world and can help the Malco Products folks out, definitely look Seth up.
Yeah. No, what else have you not learned about our organization? Actually, I'll share one other thing because we're talking about manufacturing. So we actually have a program that's pretty neat called Results Forum or QITs, Quality Improvement Teams. And I want to say it started in like the mid 90s. And we've now done, I think we're on, actually, I'm going to look it up to see what number we're on. But we've now done 64 QITs. We do between 2 and 3 a year. And it's where cross-functional teams come and they look at a process. Doesn't matter if it's in, accounting, purchasing, manufacturing, sales, and marketing. It's all about building a flow chart, looking in the process and figuring out how to make it better. And it really is, one of the things that's allowed us to be successful is that continuous improvement spirit. And we measure it in green dollars, blue dollars, and red dollars. So green dollars are I was paying $5 a pound. Now I'm paying $4 a pound. Here's the savings. Yep. Blue dollars are, manufacturing. We were able to increase the speed of our manufacturing or reduce a waste stream, and there were specific savings. And then red dollars is just, I hated doing this project and I don't have to, or I hated doing this process. We automated it and I don't have to do it anymore, or it fell under like a keep, start, stop, where it's like, we don't have to do it anymore. Yep. And so I would say we have this very robust quality improvement team culture that continues to kind of just, drive our company forward.
Yep.
So
yeah, that's cool. Okay, well, so Malco Products, great to learn about you guys today. Seth, it's been an intriguing conversation.
Yeah. Well, if you're ever in the Ohio region, I'd love to have you. We'll have to go for a bike ride, or I'd love to give you a tour.
I would love that. I may well be that. We actually had a trip planned to Pittsburgh that I got snowed out on last month. And so if I get that rescheduled, I will add you to the agenda.
Well, we'd love to host you. So
okay. Well, Seth, thanks so much for your time today. Really, really a pleasure to learn about you guys. And I look forward to hearing more about how things go in the future.
Great. Well, Jim, thank you. It was a pleasure.
And as always, thanks to you in the audience. You guys are why we're here. I can't promise everything's going to be as intriguing as what Seth brought us today, but we're here every Tuesday. It's always at least a little intriguing. So tune in. We'll have another show for you next week. From Manufacturing Talks, I'm Jim Vinosky signing off. So long.
Thanks for tuning in to Manufacturing Talks with Jim Vinosky. Watch for new episodes dropping every Tuesday. And don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe.